Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. And tonight we're going to go south of the border to a Latin American hero who died, and then north of the border to a Canadian hero who died, but both of them had a profound effect on American culture. We're going to start out with this.
Más ágil que una tortuga, más fuerte que un ratón, más noble que una lechuga, su escudo es un corazón, es el Chapulín Colorado, interpretado por el supercomediante Chespirito.
That was Chespirito playing his character El Chapulin Colorado, the Crimson Grasshopper. Chespirito, a.k.a. Little Shakespeare, a.k.a. Roberto Gomez Bolaños, who died recently at the age of 85. He was the Mexican screenwriter, actor, comedian, film director, television director, playwright, songwriter, and author, widely regarded as one of the most important Spanish-language comedians of the 20th century. Here's Los Angeles television on the death of Chespirito.
We're at Plaza Mexico here, and I quote a CNN Mexico reporter who says Chespirito was Latin American and Mexico television. Known to millions as Chespirito, or in English, Little Shakespeare, Roberto Gomez Bolaños will no doubt leave a comedic legacy that'll carry on for decades to come. His passing at 85 years old in Cancun came earlier today.
Ever since I was 4 or 5 years old, I remember, coming home, from school, and the first thing I want to see is El Chavo del Ocho, which is my favorite character.
Gomez Bolaños' passing comes as writers called him a titan of Latin American comedy. And though he stopped working on air in the 1980s, his work continued in syndication for Spanish-speaking audiences around the world. As for a comedic style, it was all his own.
Simple things. It wasn't even something that was really, really humongous, but it was something really, really energetic, kind of like I Love Lucy.
Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto tweeted, "Mexico has lost an icon whose work has transcended generations and borders."
No contaban con mi astucia.
Gomez Bolaños once told a newspaper reporter, "There are writers who pour out words, concepts that sound really important, that basically say nothing. His philosophy, be concise in a way where you reach everyone."
He always say, and now who can help me? ¿Quién podrá ayudarme? Yo, El Chapulín Colorado.
And I think this is telling. The memorial will take place at Aztec Stadium in Mexico City. It can hold 104,000.
And indeed, for his memorial ceremony, there were thousands of kids decked out in El Chapulin Colorado outfits. Even today, decades later, like I Love Lucy, his shows are still tuned in by over 100 million people daily in the United States and Latin America. His other iconic character that they mentioned in the segment is El Chavo de Ocho. Chespirito plays an 8-year-old boy who takes refuge inside a wooden rain barrel in a Mexican neighborhood, and it has this iconic theme that comes from Beethoven's Turkish March. Well, if you wanted an American comedic generational tie-in to Chespirito's humor, he picked up much of his style from watching old Laurel and Hardy movies. Many people don't realize it, but Laurel and Hardy made 2 versions of their movies. Of course, the English one, and then they would do an exact remake of the movie with phonetic Spanish storyboards that played all over Latin America. The movies were fantastically popular there, and you can see in Chespirito's humor. Things came full circle when Matt Groening was staying at a motel at the Mexican-American border. He turned on the television, saw El Chapulin Colorado, and came up with this character for The Simpsons.
¡Ay, el mundo es loco!
So we have Chespirito to thank for Matt Groening's Bumblebee Man on The Simpsons. We're going to move on now to our Canadian hero, Jean Beliveau, who died recently at the age of 83, one of the greatest of all Montreal Canadian hockey players. He wore number 4, and he was their center for 20 years, from 1951 to 1971, and they won 10 Stanley Cups, and he's considered one of the great ambassadors of the game of hockey, the Joe DiMaggio of hockey in Canada. Counting playing time and time in the front office, his name is on more Stanley Cups than anyone else's. Here's Canadian television CBC on the death of Jean Beliveau.
He is much more than a hockey hero. Jean Beliveau is being remembered this morning as a Canadian cultural icon, a legend born in the time of wooden sticks, original six rivalries, and Saturday nights when the whole country was watching the game.
Warren loses it. His roots are turning each other to right to front. They score!
And for generations of Canadians, his name still rings out.
Here's how good Beliveau was. When he was a teenager, he was playing amateur hockey for the Quebec Aces. Canadians wanted him badly, but he didn't want to move to Montreal. So the Montreal Canadiens bought the entire league that he played in just to get him. Early in his career in 1957, he was on To Tell the Truth, one with Polly Bergen, by the way, whose podcast we've done. And here Bud Collier documents his early accomplishments.
Now, panel, in front of you on your desk, you'll find a copy of an affidavit. Will you please follow along while I read from the original? I, Jean Beliveau, am first-string center for the world champion Montreal Canadiens hockey team. Before I turned professional in 1953, Life magazine referred to me as the most valuable rookie in the history of amateur hockey. In 4 full seasons of professional play since then, I have won the Hart Trophy, the Ross Trophy. I've been elected to the League All-Star team 3 times, and have scored more goals in one season than any other center in the record book. Signed, Jean Beliveau.
Here's Legends of Hockey to discuss Jean Beliveau, and you'll hear a lot of legends themselves, like Gordie Howe, Réjean Houle, and Brad Park. Talk about him.
As Montreal dominated the NHL, Jean Beliveau emerged as one of the greatest offensive players in the game. And as fast as Montreal was winning championships, Beliveau was winning fans.
He did everything perfect as far as I could say. He's a great hockey player, but he's, I think, as great as he was, like a few of them, they're even better people, and John was one of them.
The adulation he attracted was enormous, but he was so gracious and so good-looking. He really had the matinee idol looks and composure without any of that flash.
I introduced Big John, who was a prince of a man, to my sisters. He left, went away, and they looked at me and said, "We used to be Detroit fans." They quit right there, the big Beliveau fans.
Jean Beliveau was my mother's favorite. And I remember the first game that I played against John, and I hit him with a hip check. It was a really good hip check, and my mother was in the stands, and she wouldn't talk to me for a month.
He was elegant on the ice. He was elegant off the ice. He was elegant when he talked. He was just the most gracious, mannerly of men. I think Jean Beliveau was the player everybody wanted to be if there ever was a role model.
I always wear number 4 when I was a kid, and for me, I was trying every time that I had the puck. I used to go and skate up and saying that Jean Beliveau was going up and he's taking a shot, and I tried to skate like him. I tried to make plays like him, but it didn't work all the time. It's too bad.
But no one could play like Beliveau. A great goal scorer and a great playmaker. The perennial all-star was always among the leaders in NHL scoring. But individual statistics meant little to Beliveau. For Jean, hockey was a team game, and the Stanley Cup the only prize that mattered.
The success of the team is first. Your personal record is second. If you perform and you give your utmost, that in a team is winning, you'll be working in an atmosphere of great satisfaction, great fun. Again, I was very fortunate to play at a time with great teammates, and we had great success.
On the ice, Beliveau was outstanding, and in the dressing room, his calm presence provided reassurance. So in 1961, when it came time to choose a new captain to lead the Canadiens, Beliveau may have been the only one surprised by Coach Toe Blake's announcement.
Toe came back and he shook hands. He said, "Boys, here's your new captain." I couldn't believe it. I was not even an alternate captain. For a touchy moment for me, coming from my teammates was one of my greatest joy in my life.
Beliveau was probably the perfect captain as he was the perfect player. He knew how to lead. He knew how to take young players and say to them, there are lots of Stanley Cups to go around. You be patient. You don't have to fly all over the ice and score 100 goals. You just wait. The playoffs will come and the Canadiens will be there. And the 7th game undoubtedly will be winning a Stanley Cup. And I think that was his attitude. He expected his players, his teammates, to win.
Jean Beliveau had such an influence in the room that he can touch players by little things. A word, a touch, a gesture, a look. Sometimes with a great hockey player that has that kind of impact. A true captain, a look is enough to get the message across.
In 1964, Jean Beliveau received his second Hart Trophy as league MVP, playing with unmatched skill and a sense of fair play that earned the admiration of teammates and opponents alike.
He was just like a machine. He could make plays, he could shoot, he could score goals. He knew when there was time to pass the puck. He knew when there was time to shoot the puck. He had everything figured.
I won 2 face-offs in a row against him, and I thought I was doing pretty good. And the first face-off on our end, he just whipped her back, and it was in our net. I'm sure he just set me up. Made me think I was doing all right, until it was real important for him to win one.
To me, he was the greatest centerman that ever played. To this day, not disregarding Lemieux or Gretzky, but that's what he was. And he played in a tough time where checking was tough, where guys knew how to body check and knew how to hit. And you checked your man, you took your man.
If you were to say to me, if you're going to start a franchise and you get your pick of any player who ever played hockey, who would be your first choice in the draft? I'd pick Jean Beliveau. Off the ice as well as on, for what he added to a hockey team.
In 1965, Montreal was once again the most powerful team in hockey. That season, they would capture the Stanley Cup, and Beliveau would become the first recipient of the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP. And for Beliveau and the Canadiens, the winning would continue as the team captured 3 more cups before the decade drew to a close. In 1970, Montreal finished out of the playoffs, and Jean Beliveau felt it was time to bring his career to a close. But Montreal general manager Sam Pollock had a different ending in mind.
Jean had a long, great career in the NHL, and I know that Jean always wanted to end his career on a very high note. I thought maybe we could do better the next year. I didn't have any illusions that we're going to win the Stanley Cup at that time. That maybe he might consider another year. It would be a big help to the club and might work out for him too, and he agreed to that.
Belivau's decision to return for a final season would pay dividends, as he became only the 4th player in NHL history to reach the 500-goal plateau.
One of the biggest nights of Jean Beliveau at the Forum was the night he scored his 500. That night, he got a hat trick. His big goal came against Gilles Gilbert, all alone on him. You faked him on the left side, went around Gilbert. It looked so easy. It was a night that, if you were a Jean Beliveau fan, that you cannot forget.
Jean Belivau's final NHL season would have a storybook ending, as he led Montreal to a surprising victory in the 1971 Stanley Cup, bringing Jean's total to an amazing 10 Cup victories. And Beliveau did it all with style.
The greatest ambassador to hockey that I've ever seen in my life is Jean Beliveau. I think he's class. When people don't understand the word class, look at Jean Beliveau. He epitomizes it.
He had a presence and a quiet intelligence. He's just a wonderful, warm human being for those of us that had the privilege of knowing him. Whenever you see him, you always get that nice feeling about you're in special company.
Jean Belivau's career stands as one of the greatest in the history of the game. While his 10 Stanley Cup victories are a testament to teamwork, his individual achievements are a record of one man's greatness. Awarded the Order of Canada in 1969, Jean Beliveau showed us all how the game should be played.
I've always thought the game of hockey is the greatest game to play and the greatest game to watch. To these days, every night when I go to bed at night, I thank God to have given me the talent to have a life in professional sport.
Yeah, that 71 Cup, he upset the Blackhawks. Jean Beliveau was so popular in Canada, they put him on a postage stamp, they named a railway station after him, and Jean Chrétien offered to make him the Governor General of Canada, which he turned down. Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer, Sid Tepps, and we're going to close with a fellow Canadian countryman of Jean Beliveau, Celine Dion, singing "Oh Canada."
Oh Canada, terre de nos aïeux, ton front est ceint de fleurs en glorieux, car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix.